C language programming by Besto programming. So C language programming. This is Besto C language programming. What is a program in general? A program in general, or else in the society, a program is something which do have steps to follow so as to reach a common ground. You see, like program epa church kuti chatanga makuseni to break ninga chaparidza ninga oseta same. That's a program. So in this case, in programming, a program is a set of instructions to be executed and obtain an output. You'll find that in Besto programming, if your program doesn't obtain an output, it's not a program. But with respect to Besto programming, a program is a set of instructions to be executed by the compiler so as to obtain an output. So if you give a set of instructions, or else what we call an algorithm, which gives an output, we call it a program, you know. So topics to be covered: variables, data structures, constant, input and output statements. These are if statements and CG loops, functions. Statements, I'm going to introduce the repetition and stuff. This. So welcome to Besto programming. You should know this. Besto programming obtaining an output. No two ways about it. If your program doesn't obtain an output, it's not a program. Besto programming obtains an output. This is our motto, or else repeated statement. You know, I would like you to know this. As a programmer, you should code every day. A programmer codes every day before you sleep. Programming parasites, no matter every day. Listen. So in this case, let me introduce you to the first topic, which is variables. Variables. What are variables? Variables are containers which vary, or else which can change capacity. These are variables, you know. So I would like you to know about this type of variable and its character. This is the type of variable named. Why? Because the tricks is really popular. So I would like to demonstrate a code of this type so that you can understand what I'm trying to say about this thing, about this variable. You know. So this variable, let's do this. Let's create our first program in C, in variables. So we wanna create our first program in C, which are variables. So our project title is variables, you know. So then we click next. This project name is already created. Don't want to overwrite. Yes, want to overwrite it. Okay. So in this case, variables are like A, B, and C. These are variables, you know. These are variables. So in this case, we want to run a program which is crafted using variables. So in this case, let's do this. A variable is a container. So a container, we find the value of a container if we do have something inside that container, you know. So we would initialize our variables, then we will assign values to those variables so that they do have value in programming. Because a variable, if it is not assigned to a value, it's not a valid variable because we don't know the value. We just created a space in the RAM, you know. So in this case, variables anoshanda nanonzi data types, you see. So data types aya ndiwo atoshandisa kudeclare variables. Why? Because we want to know the type of a variable. If we say int a zvazvinoreva izvi ndezvekuti a is our variable name and int is our data type. So this variable a is of integer type, you see. So we are saying variable a, our value yatiasaina muna a inenge iri integer, wanzisa. So value yatiasaina muna a isusu inenge iri integer. That means we taudza compiler kuti variable yatiasaina muna a inenge iri integer. So in this case, either the value comes from the user or else the program, but inenge iri integer. Tikaisa value isiri integer muna a muno, haite the compiler nokudza kuti error because waisa float muna a. I hope ndikuudza vanhu vanoziva vakamboverenga C, so that they are familiar of data types, they are familiar of variables and stuff. So I just want to demonstrate the code of how to run a variable, you know. So a variable, we are saying int a, and if we say int a is equal to true, and then we terminate this one, and int a is equal to true, and we want to print 2 in a C, you see. This /n stands for a new line, you see. So now we say the value of a is. Then before printing, we recognize the type of a value we want to print. We want to print an integer, so we recognize it using percent %t, you know, using %t. And this one is a concatenator. It used to point the value where it is, so as to get the output. So we say a. I hope everyone is familiar of atotuma data types, and it atotuma data types do just wanna int, and it let's do this. This int to this and a float, and this one we do have double. These are very much important. These are very much important data types, and I will do have float double. So to recognize an integer, we use %t. To recognize a float, we use percent up. To recognize a double, we use a percent lf. To recognize a character, we do a version character char. To recognize a character, we use %c or %s. We use %c when it is a single character, like a. You see, if we declare char a s is equal to char s is equal to, then we got a single quote is equal to t, and then we use %c to recognize this type of declaration. But if we say char s, if it is a string, we put this, so that we are saying S is a string with a lot of characters, so we put these corner brackets to recognize the length of H, the length of A, to recognize the length of a string. So in this case, we are saying, in this case, if it is a string, we use double quotes. We don't use single quotes, So we use double quotes like try more. If you say try more, we recognize this using %s. Why? Because it's a string, So I think everyone understand this. Let's do this one. Yes, fine. I will get back to this. So in this case, if you run this program, we find that the program will print A. It takes long to execute just because of my computer. The value of A is 2. This is beautiful. So these are variables. If you want to print a variable, you recognize it here with respect to the data type declared by the programmer. Then you concatenate to recognize the variable so that you can print the value inside the variable. I stated before that there is no variable which can be printed without a value because it is invalid. A variable will have a value if and only if you assign something. Like in this case, we assigned 2 to our variable name A. This is beautiful. And now we want to prompt the value from the user, So if you want to prompt the value from the user, we don't assign a value to our variable A. So in this case, we say printf towards a user kuti enda the value of A, and user will say what I want to enter the value of A. After that, we store the value of A. We store the value of A like we say scanf wanna store the value of A in this case. So scanf and we this goes under. So the value of A, we recognize it first before storing it. So we recognize it's an integer. So we say percent it then we get out the cost, then we concatenate, then this we call the ampersand of then store the values in A, then we terminate. In this case, we're saying my keyboard is a problem. Alright, fine. In this case, we did store the value in one user in the variable A. We created the space of A, an integer, then we stored the value of A in A. In one use. So in this case, we just wanna print the value of A. Yeah. Let's print the value of A. See if we do enter the value. Let's say the value of A is then concatenate and say A. Wanna print the value of A from the user. We didn't assign A, but we are taking the value from the user in this case. So if we run this program, it will return the value of A. Enter the value of A. We enter our value of A is 3. Then the value of A is what's happening? We didn't recognize the A here. We didn't recognize A. The value of A is, we should put %D. %D to recognize the type of data type before printing it. So we recognize it. Let's run inside. The value of A is 4, and the value of A is 4. Beautiful.